So guys, we are now just a couple days away from the launch of Renegades, and I feel like, at least inside of the launch trailer anyway, potentially within the expansion itself, they might be teasing towards us finally getting our third Darkness subclass. Now, why do I think this? Well, in the launch trailer, there are some shots that do kind of lead me to believe that they're using some kind of new paracausal power similar to Strand and Stasis to power the main Death Star equivalent that we see within the trailer itself. I'll dive into more of that theory in a bit, but I first want to go over just where we are right now with the speculation on this. Obviously, there was a leak a while back, but I think that was confirmed to be fake, although there have been a lot of teasers, at least in-game, that we can still look at. So we're first going to cover that, and then we'll dive into the new stuff here with the Renegades launch trailer. But before we get into it, as always, if you're going to enjoy this video, if you could leave a like and subscribe to the channel, I would very much appreciate it. And with that said, let's first go over the main real indications that we have that a third Darkness subclass possibly does exist. Now, a while back, there was a showcase of a new transmat effect, and in the bottom left, we could see that a Bungie dev had red icons for their subclass abilities. This, I believe, was confirmed to be fake. I can't remember, though, completely. So that was the main real first thing that kind of spiraled this whole idea of there being a red subclass. Alongside that, if we then move into the Witch Queen expansion, within the Vow of the Disciple raid, we would see this mural within the first main encounter of the raid inside of one of the side rooms. And at that time, remember, we only had one Darkness subclass. So looking at the mural back then didn't really mean much of anything. There was a blue, green, and a yellow icon on the right, which was different, but didn't really point to anything. But when Lightfall came out and introduced Strand, it then led people to believe that these three icons could have actually represented the three Darkness subclasses that we should be getting. Obviously, with the dark blue icon representing Stasis, the green representing Strand, and the yellow one representing whatever the third Darkness subclass would be, which many people assumed at that point would have been the Resonance abilities that we see most of the Dread and the Witness himself use. Then, within the Lightfall expansion, our next main hint came with the Veil containment. Now, you could actually go up to the Veil here, and I honestly still can't remember what the Veil actually is. I don't think Lightfall did a very good job of explaining it at all, and even when they tried to, many people still don't really understand it completely. But if you go to Veil containment on Neomuna right now, you can actually go right up to it and see that there are three different main containers that are near it, or three sections of the room with certain colors. You'll see that there is a dark blue section, a green section, and a red section, which to me at least paints a picture. Obviously dark blue Stasis, green Strand, and red being whatever this third Darkness subclass could be. And then finally, for our last main hint, this came inside of episode 1 Echoes. I believe this is where you were able to collect these different rocks that you could find out on Nessus, and many people came to the conclusion that each of these different rocks could be assigned to each of our different subclasses that we had at the time. Going from left to right here, you have a purple crystal there for Void, a yellowish crystal there for Solar, a light blue crystal for Arc, a rainbow coloured crystal which could represent Prismatic, a dark blue crystal in the top right for Stasis, and a green crystal in the bottom right for Strand, with a final red or orange crystal which once again could represent this new Darkness subclass that we still have yet to obtain. I also feel like it was mentioned somewhere in the lore, I could be completely wrong here, that Nezarec might have hid one of these abilities, potentially this red subclass. I don't know if that's true. I feel like Nezarec hid something, and then that could also lead to him being able to control the nightmares that we see around his pyramid on the moon. I'm not 100% sure on that. I'll need to read up on my lore, and I'll update pin comment on what I can find. But I feel like there was some mention of Nezarec hiding something to do with a new paracausal power. Either way, with that summary out the way, let's now jump into the launch trailer here for Renegades. And why do I feel like they are potentially teasing a brand new subclass here, or at least the new power that could be used with this subclass? Now, this mainly comes in the form of the giant death laser that we see being the main kind of thing that this new Cabal Legion have created within this expansion. Now, immediately, what is going to come to mind here is just the unique form that this energy beam is taking. Now, obviously, when you think of a Death Star laser, Bungie could have just literally made it a normal looking laser, but this is anything from normal. This is almost kind of similar to the beam of light that the Traveler shot out, but it's just way more violent looking and not really something that the Baron Imperium currently have full control over. As you can see, there are a whole load of other mini Cabal ships here that also seem to be helping with the production of this beam, so I don't really feel like the Baron Imperium has control over this if it is being powered by some kind of new paracausal power that we still have yet to fully understand. Alongside that, a little bit later, we do also see another shot of what is meant to be this same beam, although it looks completely different to what we just saw here as it comes out. This is a more vibrant red, deep red beam, whereas when it hits the Traveler here in the city, this is a much more orange looking beam. Now that just could be because of how the beam changes as it travels towards its projected target, but just something to think about. Alongside that, one of the final shots here is this one, where a whole load of red energy is just flowing through what I think is Farsis Junction, or Farsis, this new social space that we have on Mars. Now, I don't know if this is the beam itself, but laser beams don't normally send out red energy as it cuts through a landscape. It's normally just the beam that then just goes and destroys everything. I don't know what this red stuff could be, but this is the biggest indication that this beam is not powered by just some normal energy source. This looks insane, to the point where it's like potentially something way more powerful than just any normal power source, and this also gives me big vibes of like the same stuff that we saw on the moon with the different nightmares. Now this stuff does look way more like red with hints of like maybe pink in there, where I believe the nightmares on the moon were mainly red with like accents of black. So I don't know if this is a more like purified version of it, but it does just look way more out of control. And I feel like it would be so cool for Bungie to actually tease a new subclass within this expansion and then have it actually fully become available to us, probably within either Shattered Cycle or the Alchemist, which are coming out next year. Also, if we look at the brand new Cabal enemy that we do see a little bit later in this trailer, if I can find him, you can see that on his like arms, there's like a whole load of scarring going on, which could just be a representation of him being the Darth Vader equivalent, but this is like insane levels of like scarring that's going on. So I have like a kind of theory that is probably incorrect on so many levels, but it's probably the main thing I'm going to be thinking about going into Renegades. I feel like this Cabal guy was probably wanting to be like the guy in charge of the Baron Imperium, and so wanted to kind of take this power for himself in a way, which is kind of what Cabal seemed to do. If you remember Gaul from the Red War wanting to take the Traveler, and then you have Keitel, who also wanted to have us work with her, and then Callus wanting to use the darkness. Cabal leaders seem to really want to just take things. So this guy wanting to, after seeing potentially this new red subclass power source, probably went and just tried to grab it, and then that stuff might have just completely burned up his arms. That is just my speculation. I'm not claiming that to be 100% true. It would just be a cool thing for him to be kind of power hungry and greedy and then just get absolutely wrecked by this power source and then having to rely on a guardian like Dredge and Bale in order to help him control it. Also, with the mention of Six being heavily tied into this expansion, don't know what his connection is to Bale at the moment, but inside of the dungeon trailer we do hear Bale kind of communicating with Six, even though it's a one-way communication. So Six potentially giving Bale this power could be a unique story plot with something going on there. Once again, complete speculation, but it's just some cool things to think about as we head into Renegades. Once again, do I feel like we're going to be getting this red subclass within Renegades? No. There is no way that they would have done any form of marketing without confirming that a red subclass exists. I'm just saying that the energy source of this laser is going to be something to keep an eye out for when you jump into the Renegades campaign. I'm going to be eagle-eyed in trying to see if anything more hints towards the existence of a red subclass, but I am very hopeful for the best, and that is all I really have to say on the matter so far. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this rampant speculation of a video. If you guys did, if you could leave a like and subscribe to the channel, I would super appreciate it once again. And with that all said, I'll see you all in the next one.